Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar, Business Office Strategies from the Front Lines, in which we'll share some client best practices for improving revenue management with next generation analytics. My name is Elisa Lesser, and I will be moderating today's session. Before we begin, I wanted to let you know that this session is being recorded, and a copy of the playback and slides will be sent out in the coming days. If at any time you have questions for our presenters, you may ask them through the Q&A panel, and be sure to direct those questions to all panelists using the drop-down menu. We'll answer those questions at the end. I'd now like to introduce our presenters for today. Jillian Wolfe and Tim Grisham are both leaders on our client services team, responsible for a majority of MediAnalytics clients and their day-to-day successful use of all provider-based solutions. Jillian has been with MediAnalytics for 3 years and has a background in healthcare project management and revenue cycle process improvement. Tim Grisham has been at MediAnalytics for 9 years and has a background in hospital care coordination consulting, as well as patient access and business office operations. Also joining us at the end of the presentation is Tom Schall, who has been with MediAnalytics for 8 years and is on our product management team, where he has oversight of our provider product suite. I'd like to now turn things over to Tim, who will start us off. Tim?
Thanks very much, Elisa, and thanks to everyone for taking the time to join today. I suspect that I was once the account manager for a lot of you on the phone, so you know how much I appreciate the participation and the expertise that you as our clients bring to these discussions. In terms of the agenda today, I'd like to kick it off by level setting where we all stand today in terms of sort of broad industry challenges, and thus we obviously face in the business office. Then I'll cover briefly what our successful clients seem to be doing to address these challenges. As an analytics company, clearly, we'll focus on where we fit into that solution. And of course, part of that is navigating your IT landscape and understanding how we complement your other technologies. And then I'll turn it over to Jillian, and she'll dive into the business office product and show you a couple example analyses that our successful clients who have moved to Epic and or Cerner continue to find mission critical as they address the challenges that we discussed. Finally, Tom will jump in and go over some exciting roadmap items for you to look forward to, and hopefully leave some time for a couple questions at the end. All right, next slide. So before we at MediAnalytics start building products or decide new features or full modules to add to our products, we always start by gaining an understanding of what our clients are facing. And I think that although there are a lot of things that challenge us in healthcare, and those things change, a few things have remained pretty consistent, and we're all faced with them. First, the cost of healthcare continues to rise. And as we know, much of that increase in cost is transferred to the patient. And we know that collecting from patients can be very challenging, at least more so than collecting from a third party like an insurance company. So clearly, reimbursements are at greater risk. We know we're moving away from fee-for-service and towards value-based care and these other alternative payment models. And for sure, that's putting more insurance payments at risk. On top of that, government regulation, as we know, affects reimbursement, and that's further adding pressures as a result of, for example, repealing Medicaid expansion. Also, when benefit design gets more complicated, what do we worry about in our operations? Or denials, right? So third, when the situation we just talked about exists, so costs going up, less payments coming in, it's not a shock that we're told that budgets are getting cut. There are cost pressures, for example, labor costs are increasing, and that may lead to decreasing operating expenses on things like supplies or services or technology. So that's what we're dealing with. Next slide. So how do you address the challenges of at-risk reimbursements, increased denials, slowdown of cash, or better, like what are our leading healthcare organizations out there doing to address these challenges? One is they're out there buying best practice workflow. From an operations perspective, when things get more complicated, we worry about things like black holes, where very collectible accounts could be falling into a place with very little visibility, and they age and they're not getting paid, and no one even knows about them. The good thing is that many of you have likely moved or are considering a move to a new patient accounting system like Epic or Cerner. And we know that Epic, for example, has much more configurable work queues than legacy patient accounting systems. That's a great step in the right direction, and it seemingly is mission critical for most organizations. Second is that they have organized a multidisciplinary revenue team. I've sat in these rooms at my clients that used to be maybe a conference room or a large hall closet, and that's been converted into, quote, like the Epic war room. And every week, maybe every day, representation from patient access, HIM, coding, revenue cycle, finance, maybe even quality leadership. They meet to talk about process issues, staffing issues, charge issues, denial issues, maybe work queue tweaks that need to be made to plug that black hole you just found. Especially as we move away from fee-for-service, the stakeholders that are involved in the reimbursement process are no longer just traditional business office staff. Contract arrangements are potentially more complicated, more confusing for your staff to try to explain to patients, more complicated for your patients to understand. So a team approach around reimbursement is certainly a growing need. And third, they're investing in self-service analytics to leverage big data. So, we know that when you install Epic, you're getting a world of new data. They're just tracking a lot more data points. And yet, some of you still have this scenario. Your cash isn't meeting your expected target. And after looking through your reporting workbench reports and a couple slice or dicer analyses, you're still not getting the view you need to understand your problem. So you engage your Epic report writer or your decision support team, and you might sort of cross your fingers that they get back to you before your next report out to your CFO or your revenue cycle meeting. And imagine that your staff instead has an intuitive self-service capability with all that rich Epic data and flexibility to slice and dice it the way they want. And they never even have to ask anyone for it. Next slide. Again, most organizations have started investing in those next generation host systems like Epic. So how do you make sure that you're getting the most bang for that investment? We know that Epic doesn't do everything, so you need to make sure you surround it with the right people, processes, and technology. And those that figure out how to leverage their technology in a complementary manner, I think are the ones that are going to succeed. We work with hundreds of health systems, and we learned a lot about what Epic and Cerner are great at, and certainly what they're not. Of course, we're a healthcare analytics company, and it's our passion. So I'll turn it over to Jillian, and she's going to show you a couple of specific examples where our clients are leveraging the business office product to drive ROI in complement of their host system. And we'll try to tie those examples back to the challenges that I presented. One being self-pay, including self-pay residuals, since we talked about that, or balance after insurance. And then she's got one around denials, surfacing root causes and dashboarding, et cetera. So, Jillian, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. As Tim alluded to, I'm going to go through the two use cases around both our self-pay populations as well as our denials, and how MediAnalytics has both pre-built reports as well as how we have flexibility for you to create your own reports within our solution that meet the business needs of your organization. So the focus of many of our organizations is around self-pay, both looking at true self-pay as well as residual self-pay. So as Tim mentioned, the self-pay after insurance bucket. And MediAnalytics allows you to view both of these buckets within a variety of reports in the solution. So to start, we wanted to look at our collections performance dashboard as an area in which a CFO could come in on a monthly basis and just see how our self-pay buckets are trending over time. So one thing to note is on our demo data here, I have already put in residual self-pay, but this is something that's easy to quickly reset and be able to look at all of your different populations by simply clicking Reset Filters. Within the residual self-pay dashboard, we have a variety of reports. So we have how many patient payments are coming through, the actual count of those patient payments, what does our self-pay AR outstanding look like, the amount of point of service payments that we're getting, as well as the count. And then further down, you see that we also have the ability to look at where are we getting patient payments across the board for all of our different patient types. If your organization is wanting to focus specifically on your outpatient groups, you can quickly look at just your outpatient data. You can also just look at it across the board for the last 12 months. Another area that we have within this collection performance dashboard is looking at what is the time to first patient payments. So if we look at our buckets, we have our 0 to 30 days going all the way out to 180 plus days. And the majority of our accounts, we see if we get a patient payment for the first time, we're getting that within that 0 to 120 days. And then it significantly drops off after that 120-day mark. This, again, is providing visibility to our executive teams where we're getting payments. If we are getting payments at the 120-day for the first time, providing some visibility to get that information over to managers to look at what's happening. Why is that first payment not taking place until 120 days plus? Do we need to adjust our payment cycles? Different things that they can drill into and pass that information on to the appropriate parties to be able to look into that data. The other thing that we have is at the bottom, we have our self-pay calculations that are looking specifically at our payment propensity. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth as we look at a few of the other self-pay dashboards within the solution. But this allows you to see, based on the scoring that we are doing within the solution, if your organization has self-pay scoring turned on, where we're seeing those populations that are highly likely to pay and likely to pay, as well as those highly unlikely to pay and might pay. The highly likely to pay and the likely to pay, again, getting that information over to managers to quickly decipher and dig through that detail. They can quickly come in here and click drill down and actually view these reports and get that data so that we can set these patients up on payment plans, potentially get payment in full ahead of the curve so that we are getting those first patient payments through the door within that 0 to 90-day time frame. The nice thing about these reports and with any dashboard within Medi is that you have the ability to export these on a regular cadence. So you can export this to PDF, so utilize it within a board presentation, or setting it up as an Excel document within each of the individual reports so that it's being sent out to your managers on a monthly basis for them to be able to come in and view the data. So again, from this demo dashboard, you can go in and you can drill into any of the reports. But for the purposes of this demo, we've prepared a residual self-pay report that is looking at any of our account balances that are greater than $1,000 and what AR we still have outstanding for those accounts. So the nice part about this is we can look at trending the AR week over week, day over day, depending on how often your managers are coming in and looking at this data. For purposes of the demo, we did look at trending our AR by the last 2 months. And we can quickly see that there's different payer trends going on in the different buckets and payer account balances that are left open that are now transferred over to our self-pays. As the industry moves towards more high deductible insurance plans, it's important to monitor those payers with those outstanding AR buckets within the $2,500 to $5,000 bucket. As you can see from the demo data, there are quite a few accounts sitting out there for Blue Cross and commercial that account for the majority of the AR that we easily could work down. One thing that we can do as well within these reports is set up proactive alerts that allow us to actively monitor the different trends that are going on with the payers. So for example, let's go ahead and select our AR outstanding for Blue Cross here within the $2,500 to $5,000 bucket. And we're going to simply click on Create Alert. You'll notice there's a lot of different options here in the drop-down. So we can do is less than, is equal to, etc. But let's just say, for example, we want to see if the AR outstanding increases by 10%. We simply put in 10%, and then we can set for how often we want this to be checked. So if we are looking at checking our AR outstanding for Blue Cross, specifically around our residual self-pay buckets on a weekly basis, we can say weekly, and then we can say what day we want that to start, and either get an email when that alert is triggered. And as managers, again, you can send this distribution and alert out to your financial counselors that are working these accounts, or you can send it to your group of managers by just simply selecting their names, and this will allow this email to go out to them anytime the alert has been triggered for whatever you have set it up for. If I click on the detail here, you'll actually see it's going to trigger, and it's going to say we did not trigger this alert for right now because we did not have a 10% increase between the last time it was checked and this time. And this will keep a running log of any time you've been able to have that alert triggered or not triggered, and gives you some great data points within your alerts to be able to see how you're trending over time from the alert standpoint, as well as being able to see those trends within the reports themselves. As the managers determine how to break out the work from the residual self-pay buckets, again, you'll start to push this data out to the financial counselors to work down the AR. So using Blue Cross in this example, we're going to drill into these 2,600 accounts and open up what we have as our detail reports. The nice thing is within the detail report, you'll notice that there are quite a few fields that we are pulling in. Again, we're pulling any and every field that you are able to get to us from your patient accounting system into this view. So it can be pretty overwhelming. So one thing we recommend to do is create some layouts so that every time your financial counselors come into these reports, they're only viewing the fields that are applicable to them to be able to do their day-to-day functionalities. They can then sort by the amount of patient payments, they can sort by the total charges, they can sort by how much patient balance is left, a variety of different ways within the tool to sort the data. And so you can see from within here that many of these accounts already have patient payments applied. So from here, the financial counselors can determine whether these patients may already be on payment plans, or if they can work to set one up on their next follow-up call with the patient, so that by proactively setting the plans up, it avoids you having to wait for the statement cycles to go through and allows you to have a quicker or decrease in your accounts receivable. The other nice thing about this is a user can come in as a financial counselor, and if they just have a list of accounts from Epic or Cerner that they're wanting to look at, they can quickly upload that list of accounts directly into Medi and do the same type of analyses. One final area that I want to look at within our self-pay is actually around some of our charity care dashboards that are already built out as well. So if your facility, I've mentioned it a few times, uses our self-pay scoring criteria, you can set up scoring discount logic based on your specific facility and monitor your credit detail, federal poverty levels, and other key factors to determine whether these accounts should be written off to charity or if these accounts should be sent to be set up for some payment plans. So again, variety of information within our report here that show us the amount of charity write-offs, how many charity write-offs we're doing on a daily basis. And then these bottom two graphs really point towards what I was mentioning with the self-pay scoring and coming up with those specific discount levels. So we break this data out by both our discount in terms of how much of a discount the patient should be getting on the services provided based on their federal poverty level scores, as well as our federal poverty levels and just looking at where these individuals are falling with their actual federal poverty level score and not based on the discounts. So if you want to, you can come in, and again, any manager can come in on a daily basis and drill into any of these graphs to be able to see how the data is trending and identify if there are ways in which we can be writing more data or more accounts off to charity, or again, getting that information set up for payment plans. One key use case that we do have is we do have some of our facilities who are actually exporting the federal poverty level percentage into a nightly batch export that is then input into their patient accounting system, whether that be Epic or Cerner or any of the others that are out there. So that is something that we're able to take that raw file and send that back to your host system so you have that FPL score available within the patient account. If your organization does not partake in our self-pay scoring, there's no worries. We still provide a lot of the trending data that you need for self-pay trends overall, both on the residual side and true self-pay. Another important area where MediAnalytics provides some very detailed analytics is around trending and identifying the denials across a variety of different variables. So for your billing managers, we have both our payer scorecard along with our payers of active denials dashboard. Both are great places to start when looking to review this information. So I'm going to pull up our payer scorecard. And you'll notice that on the payer scorecard, there are a variety of different metrics that can be tracked with amongst your billing managers. So our average time to bill by payer, our total cases, our gross charges, the total payments that we're getting, as well as some of our operating metrics. So again, as we mentioned, we want to really focus on our denials here. So we see here we have percentage of denied accounts, and then it breaks it into the different payer buckets that we've identified. As mentioned during the self-pay demo, you can also set up alerts to trigger for some key metrics. Using Blue Cross as our example, gotta love Blue Cross, we create an alert here, and we can say, let's take a look at the percentage of denied accounts is greater than 10%. So we wanna make sure that we're looking at any time this specific metric goes over 10%, so we can see what's going on. Maybe Blue Cross had a change in some of their codes that they're reimbursing on. Medicare, as we know, every year has the new codes that come out. So did we not update our patient accounting system with information, and that's why we're getting higher denials? It just allows you to come in and actively see if we're seeing spikes in any of that percentage of denied accounts within the payer scorecard itself. At any time, as with any report within Medi, the users can drill into these accounts and look at what is causing these denied accounts. Another key area is within our payers of active denials dashboard. This is not only relevant to our billing managers, but it also allows for your denial managers to review denial-specific information in a very interactive format. So as you'll notice when you come in, each of these reports is just set to the basics. We've got our payers here, so each of our little heat map bubbles, if I hover over, you'll see Blue Cross, how many accounts, what the denial amount is, and what the AR outstanding is for that payer. And then it breaks it out as we go down amongst the different departments that we've built out, as well as denial categories, reason codes, and then finally at the bottom, it gets as granular as we can get around the collectors that were responsible for working those accounts, or the follow-up staff members that were responsible for those accounts. So continuing to look at Blue Cross, because it's one of our bigger bubbles on here, if you simply click on this bubble, this will actually update all of the reports below to show us specifically what's happening amongst the Blue Cross population. So whether it be we want to drill into this 250 so that the documentation was not correct and look at it by reason code, or we want to look at the specific account owners of these accounts that are sitting in our denial bucket, we can go in and tackle these denials in many different ways. Using our collector ID, if we open up this summary report here, we can drill into the patient detail from here, or you can actually do it from the summary page as well, and just simply look at the different accounts and what is happening on a day-to-day basis. From here, as you may have noticed on our other account detail sheets, we have what we call our patient encounter sheet. And the patient encounter sheet is great because it takes all of the account information that we have for that specific instance and puts it into one view. So if I click on our patient encounter here, you'll see we've got our basic clinical information, we have our insurance information, any transactions that have taken place, as well as any charges, any denials, any of the remit information, adjustments, et cetera. Payment probability, as I mentioned, if you have self-pay scoring turned on, what is coming back with their FPL scoring. So this just gives you, again, a great overview of what is happening on that account. You can set some follow-up dates for your users if they want to come in and look at this account at a later date. They can add in notes as follow-up staff in terms of what they've done. So I know they're probably doing a lot of this in their patient accounting system, but they also can add in notes within the solution. And then really give you a way for your follow-up staff to come in on a regular basis and work down those accounts that are getting denials. Outside of the pre-built reports, we can also create some ad hoc dashboards, and we have seen a variety of our customers requesting these from their account teams because they are needing to focus on specific areas of denials. So we created in here a denials dashboard that is specifically looking at our high dollar drugs as well as some denials based on transaction codes. Looking at the previous dashboards, we were looking strictly at the data returned on the 835s, but it's also important to review denials information at the transaction level. Since transaction codes are consistent across the facilities, whereas the payer ANSI codes can vary payer to payer, the transaction codes allow you that consistent way to view the data across the board and identify where those denials are coming from. Within here, you'll notice I just looked at a couple of the high dollar drugs that we have in our system, and this just looks at where are we seeing the denials amongst those different drugs. Is it for authorization purposes, billing purposes, documentation, et cetera? The important thing to note is you can work with your account manager at any time to recategorize how your transaction codes are being put into these high-level categories. We understand that not every organization looks at denials as being authorization specific. Perhaps you see those as billing specific. Same thing with where in the cycle the denials are taking place. If you don't see a denial as necessarily related to the business office backend, but more so something that's happening mid-cycle with the coding department, we can create those custom dimensions. And if that is something you're interested in, definitely let your account managers know. So again, just looking at some of our denial transactions over the last 3 months, looking at the types by the transaction codes, we have our contractual adjustments here, and we're saying these 3 transaction codes are considered a denial, and we want to take a look at those. These are your contractual adjustments, here's your administrative write-offs, and then we've got the specific transaction codes that are specific to our denials. And then we can also break that out by payer. So of those different buckets, these not being necessarily denials, but amongst our denial bucket, we are seeing that there's a high volume of Medicare and being able to drill into that information from there. As we close out on the demo, I'd like to recap on some of the key takeaways and advantages for using advanced analytics in tandem with your patient accounting system. So we did look through and we see there's some historical snapshots, being able to trend and instantly drill into the data that is in the tool. We're also able to aggregate granular 835 data, which we all know can be overwhelming when you try to look at it without having something able to parse that data for you. So we can look at it at an account level for improved denials management. We're also able to automate exports and alerts for a variety of different users. As long as they're set up within Medi, we can simply get that information out to them and then draw them back into the solution to continue working that data down. And then also, and Tom will talk through this a little bit more here in a bit when he goes through our roadmap, is looking at leveraging predictive analytics, guided analysis, machine learning, especially around that denials population, so that you're able to proactively manage when you may be getting denials coming through the system, that you are able to then go back and proactively address within the patient accounting systems. And this is just a quick recap of the two types of reports that we went through in terms of our best practice analyses. We looked at our self-pay after insurance analysis, as well as our self-pays that were true self-pays. Looking at our denials analysis, both with the 835 and the patient accounting data, and then looked through some of the scheduled exports and alerts to allow for time savings across the board. I'll now hand it over to Tom, who is going to highlight the value of our business office solution and take you through some of our roadmap information.
Great. Thank you very much, Jillian. And thank you all very much for your time today. We really appreciate you spending some time with us to go through these important challenges and how our solution helps address some of the challenges that you might be facing. So as Elisa had mentioned, my name is Tom Shaw. I'm in our product management division with oversight over our provider product suite. And as Jillian touched on, I'm just going to be recapping sort of at a high level the value drivers as we see them as they exist in the platform today, but then also things that are coming down the pipeline from a roadmap perspective within the suite that we're very excited about and excited to share with you today. Next slide, if you would, Jillian. Great. So at a very high level, this is sort of how we see the key value drivers from a business office standpoint. Obviously, we've already covered some of those. To tie it back to what Tim had said, my primary responsibility as a product manager is to pay very close attention to what is happening in the market and pressure that's coming down from, the winds that change from an industry perspective. So obviously you see a lot of the solution value oriented around some of those key trends that we've identified, changes in reimbursement structures, revenue at risk, shrinking margins, et cetera, et cetera. At a very high level, the business office solution is a very mature solution, and we are very excited about sort of the latest iteration and where we're going forward to continue to drive value within this space. So to kind of synopsize some of these bullet points, we really feel like our value that we offer, a key value that we offer, is data unification. And so everything that Jillian showed in the solution can be a combination of inputs from a variety of different patient accounting systems. So if you had an Epic or Cerner, for example, but you wanted to also bring in legacy data from an existing patient accounting system, et cetera, we're able to bring in and normalize that data and make meaningful insights kind of generated out of the platform. And then obviously some of the automated features like alerts and exports help our clients automate their processes around revenue cycle management and just having insight into sort of the enterprise performance as a whole. We also really pride ourselves on emphasizing the self-service aspect of the tool. Everything that Jillian just showed in terms of spinning up dashboards and drilling down and creating reports on the fly can all be done by business users without input from IT, waiting on backlogs and those types of things to turn around reports. So data is sort of at your fingertips, if you will, and you can manipulate it and interrogate it as you see fit to really drive value and answer questions that might be burning in your head at the time that they come up. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on. So the key value drivers of the solution, cash acceleration, denials and bad debt outcome mitigation, and then, taking sort of, payer performance and denials management a step further to really drill into how can we truly understand root cause at, sort of the payer level with individual denial reason codes and categories, so you can have real insight into, what operational steps can be taken to help mitigate or, close loops so that, you can prevent future undesirable outcomes from occurring. And I'll be getting a little bit more into where we're headed, and Jillian touched on this, but we are really placing a big emphasis on next generation analytics that really starts with more guided analysis, which you saw in the interactive dashboard capabilities that Jillian shared, but really bringing to bear, anomaly detection, machine learning, predictive analytics, so that we can continue to drive value and be more proactive and more automated in how we're surfacing anomalies and opportunities to help you more effectively manage your revenue cycle. So with that, let's transition to the next slide, and I'm going to quickly go through the platform. And this is really an exciting announcement for us. We have just recently released the newest version of the Business Office product on our new MediWorks platform. And without going into too much technical detail, I will kind of go through this schematic from the bottom to the top to kind of orient you to how we have structured our platform and our solution to really pave the way for some of those next generation analytics that I was referring to. So at the bottom, our bread and butter is really that comprehensive data orchestration. So across our solutions, but even specifically within Business Office, we're bringing in data from a variety of different host systems, 835 data, et cetera. We're bringing that all together, and we're doing very robust data scoring on that. And, we kind of view, our solutions are only as good as the data that we get. So we place a big emphasis on making sure that we are crosswalking and aggregating and joining that data effectively to make it the most meaningful data that it can possibly be to drive those meaningful insights. A step above the data orchestration layer, we have embedded sort of the latest and greatest technology. So, you can kind of look at the logos here. These are sort of the who's who of technology to support sort of next generation analytics. And we're very excited that those are embedded functionalities and technologies in our platform. That is also part of our subscription model. So as new technologies get released, either versions on these existing vendors that we've partnered with, or new vendors that come to the market, we will always be looking for opportunities to drive more and more value through our technology stack. We're also investing very heavily in our own user interface. So some of the things that Jillian shared around alerts and dashboard capabilities and such are a big emphasis of investment for us. And we recognize that bringing the data to life, so to speak, from a visualization aspect, ease of use, those things are really critically important to drive value. And so that's definitely something that we continue to invest in. And then sitting atop that, on our unified platform, we've got a variety of SaaS solutions that cover really the entire healthcare continuum. So specifically on the revenue cycle side, patient access, our revenue integrity mid-cycle tool, and then Business Office. But then as you continue along the healthcare continuum, we've got some emerging cost and operations capabilities. As Tim had mentioned, with regards to shifting reimbursement structures, we've got capabilities around value-based care. And I should say as well, from a technology standpoint, that this platform, there's much more interoperability between different solutions so that we can open the door and keep pace with changing reimbursement structures and those types of things to have more interoperability between our SaaS solutions. And then continuing out, we do have capabilities on the health plan as well as in the public sector side of healthcare. And then also, soon we will be launching a MediCreate version, which is really our platform as a service offering to the market. This is intended to be more self-service. So you can bring in ad hoc data sets, marry those with our SaaS solutions. There's also an opportunity to create your own predictive models and actually launch those into the platform as sort of like an app store. And so other clients can take advantage of models that have been built sort of open source within the MediWorks ecosystem. So with that, maybe let's transition into the roadmap, and I'll kind of tie it back to what we've recently invested in by bringing Business Office into our MediWorks platform. Like I mentioned, we have placed an emphasis on more guided analysis. We are currently working on some very exciting features, which I'll cover here, that is really, the MediWorks platform has really opened the door for us to be able to explore more fully. In addition to our core product, we also are about to launch our professional business office module on the MediWorks platform. So we do support a number of clients today who are sending us professional data, but we have sort of upgraded and standardized that solution and married it with our institutional BOSS solution on the MediWorks platform. It does include some unification of data, so you can have like an enterprise-wide view of overall business office performance. It also does integrate 835 denial data for denials insights, and then there's some more robust capabilities around RVUs and productivity. And then next, AR Monitor is a focal point sort of out of the gate from a next generation analytics standpoint. And it is within the business office tool, we do update data daily, but it's historically been a little bit of a black box in terms of all the things that we're doing against that data to update it from day to day. And so we wanted to have more visibility into some of the daily fluctuations and changes that were occurring and make meaningful use out of it. So the way that this is coming together, and this is planned for release at the end of the quarter on the MediWorks platform, is that we will have daily changes in AR as well as, embedded in that a predictive sort of forecasting model which shows how those daily changes over time might influence AR fluctuations in the future. And there's also sort of a rules text widget that's embedded as well to help contextualize the data that we're identifying and tracking on a daily basis. So we're very excited about that feature. Next, we are moving forward exploring deeper patient accounting system integrations. So this is everything ranging from making sure that within our tool in a standard solution, we can actually match field nomenclature to an Epic or a Cerner universe so that there's no translation that your staff needs. They understand specifically, be it, an account-based class or some other specific term that you're used to within your patient accounting system. There's no translation that's necessary within Business Office. And then we also want to integrate more data, namely activity data. So either front-end registration activity or back-end collection activity coming out of the workflow. We feel like that data is a very rich source that we can marry with the Business Office solution and help provide meaningful insight into work queue optimization and those types of things, as well as feed data back from Business Office to make some insights generated out of our analytics platform more meaningful within an Epic or a Cerner, for example. I mentioned earlier some expanded visualizations. We're continuing to invest here. So new chart types are coming out very frequently. We're also including new visualization capabilities like metric tiles and annotation capabilities on dashboards. Again, with the sole purpose of really making the data more meaningful. And as you share and collaborate across the organization, the more explicit or visible that data is, the better it is served to drive improvements and results. The next item, data out. So we've invested in some integrations with some leading data visualization solutions out there like Tableau and Power BI. So there's a seamless export capability that is now facilitated. So if you did have Tableau or Power BI licenses and you were using that operationally across the organization, you can export that from Medi and Business Office and then utilize it in those other tools, again, very seamlessly with security protocols and everything baked in. Cash forecasting, so this is an extension of some of our next generation analytics as well, looking at more predictive models around cash. So, early in the month, how are cash postings, how does that track towards a month-end target? How have seasonal changes or staff changes historically impacted, cash realization, and a more contextual way of viewing how you're tracking towards month end, for example, or other cash collection goals that you might have. Next is reserves. So we have some clients who are leveraging reserves capabilities today and getting immense value out of it. We are in the process of sort of designing a standard and scalable version of that reserves module that will be embedded on the MediWorks platform. So we're really excited about those capabilities where you can look at P&L impacts, month over month. You can use and leverage Medi to tie out your month-end process and really have insightful analytics around where there could be outliers from a reserves perspective, et cetera. And you can modify rules and accrual tables accordingly to make that more and more accurate over time. Predictive denials, we've got some base level capabilities today. We'd like to augment those further by really understanding, account characteristics that have driven denials. And we've got a rich historical data set that is available to us. So leveraging machine learning and predictive capabilities, we feel are really powerful to drive a more predictive denial capability within the tool. And then lastly, we have some enterprise performance management software that we offer as a product, within the Medi solution suite. But the EPM integration in particular is direct integration and clickability through from Business Office to EPM. So if you've got, plans, strategic goals that are being tracked in our EPM solution, there's a direct link between the two solutions to really tie out value and make sure that you're driving towards a successful outcome. So that's a very high-level overview. I would like to, certainly if there was more interest in diving deeper, I would be more than happy to spend some additional time. And you can coordinate directly with your account representative if you'd like some additional details or diving in deeper on our roadmap. So with that, I really thank you again for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Elisa to help open up the Q&A session of the webinar.
Great. Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Tim and Jillian, for a great presentation. We'd like to now take an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. And as a reminder, you can submit your questions on the Q&A panel, and make sure to submit those questions to all panelists from the drop-down. So we do have one or two questions in the queue. Feel free to submit those as we are answering. So the first question, I'll open it up to whoever would like to address this. It says scoring functionality within self-pay analytics was mentioned. What sources do you use to pull back those scores?
Hey, Lisa, it's Jillian. I'll take that one. So within the BOSS solution and in the new MediWorks area platform, we will be utilizing Equifax. So we're able to send out and gather all of that information necessary for our self-pay analytics solution to pull that directly from Equifax.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have a second question, and this one is asking about expanding on other analytics products you offer to help those industry challenges. So can you expand on those other products?
Elisa, this is Tim, and I think I briefly mentioned that, so I'll take this one. And when you invest in a powerful analytics platform, what you're also doing is opening up a capability to send us a lot of data to allow us to aggregate and produce more value. We already have some purpose-built products that Tom mentioned around patient access, around the mid-cycle, right, coding and documentation. And those are great examples of where you can do things like tie who created that denial from a registration perspective, like who registered that account and was supposed to, for instance, verify the insurance so that it didn't lead to a back-end insurance verification denial. Being able to tie those products together is incredibly powerful. And then I mentioned, the cost problem, and one thing that we're really excited about is our cost and operations solution. Looking at things like labor productivity and service line analyses, supply chain, and as reimbursements become at risk, we are obviously looking at where is there some cost takeout and having some visibility into that. So those are just a couple of them. I invite people to look at our website for further information, and obviously for clients to contact their account managers if they would like some further discussion and demonstrations of those solutions.
Thanks, Tim. We'll take one or two more questions. Next one is it possible to bring in new data feeds and fields into the platform?
Yeah, I can take that one, Elisa. This is Tom, and it's a great question. To expand a little bit on the MediCreate and Platform as a Service, the intention there is to offer into the market a data orchestration tool. So within the MediCreate universe, you can, leveraging IT staff, really bring in and use and leverage Medi to sort of be your data orchestration engine. And in that particular platform and scenario, really the sky's the limit in terms of the data that can be brought in and then unified on our platform. We also see a lot of value in marrying some of those ad hoc data sets to our existing SaaS solutions, for example, those types of things. But within the SaaS products themselves, there is an interest in expanding our data integration further. So I mentioned activity data flowing in from work queues, either registration data to create more of like an account lifecycle type view, or back-end activity data to help operationalize and optimize work queues. Those types of things are definitely things that we're taking a close look at. And then I should say as well, from just the standard data feed that we accept for Business Office, for example, there is ample flexibility to supply sort of custom or client-defined fields, dimensions, metrics, et cetera, because we understand while there are sort of industry standard fields to help drive the key areas of interest within the solution, not all clients are the same. Everything is different across the board, and we need to be flexible to help our clients customize and tailor the solution to meet their needs. And so I'd say the combination of all those things, we've got pretty good flexibility and soon to be even more flexibility to integrate and make meaningful use out of additional data sets.
Great, thank you, Tom. We have one final question. We have a participant who's interested in the predictive analytics. So can you talk more about the predictive analytics features that are planned and the functionality that you discussed on the roadmap?
Yeah, definitely. So Jillian had shared some already baked in predictive models around propensity to pay, for example. Those have been sort of retrofitted and upgraded over the years, but that is something that we've offered in the market for some time. Our next sort of movement into this is the AR monitor dashboard that I touched on. So understanding and contextualizing those transactions and charges and daily AR movement help us kind of create that predictive forecasting model within the tool. The other things that we're looking at are the cash forecasting and predictive denials. In full transparency, those aren't totally defined yet. So we're very interested in collaborating and understanding where there are some current pain points that more predictive and machine learning embedded capabilities could drive within your organization. So definitely encourage your feedback and thoughts on some of those. And again, we can work on that directly through your account manager, et cetera. And then lastly, just to kind of circle back on what I touched on with the MediCreate platform, the goal there is to really open it up and make it more of a platform where there is sort of like an app store, and clients can, maybe they've got a data scientist on their team and they've created a model and trained that model, that they could then release it onto the MediCreate platform and monetize it, frankly, through our platform. That expands the value to all of our clients. It's obviously beneficial to the author of that model, and we are really interested in sort of opening up and facilitating that ecosystem, again, with those, really core kind of functionalities that we've talked about, machine learning and predictive models and those types of things. We're pretty open to, different sources, be it, Python or R or what have you, and creating some inherent flexibility in our platform to support that.
Great, very exciting things on the horizon. Thank you. And thank you everybody for submitting your questions. If you do have any other inquiries, please feel free to reach out to your Medi Analytics representative, or you can contact us from the link that you see on your screen. Many thanks to Tim, Jillian, and Tom for presenting today, and we really appreciate all of you taking the time out to attend. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at a future webinar. Have a great day, everybody.